Mr. Patrick, you say 5 years ago you made a huge mistake by opening your doors to a stranger who needed a place to stay because that man betrayed you and slept with your girlfriend, Miss Pence. Today, you're here to prove that you didn't father Pence's fraternal twins, 4-year-olds Larry and Carrie, and the other man did. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Pence, you are certain Mr. Patrick is the father and claim the DNA test will prove it. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Patrick, take me back to how you found out she cheated.
We had wanted to purchase another home. We met the gentleman. We befriended him, let him move into our home. He offered to help pay the bills and stuff.
So you basically took in a person that was going to rent a room?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Well, he stayed maybe 5 or 6 days, and he up and moved out. And I questioned her. I said, wonder why he just upped and left. Is it because me and you argue a lot?
Okay.
You know, time goes on. Me and her sat around and had a few drinks, sitting at home enjoying ourselves. And she up and leaves and goes across the street to the neighbors. 10:30 runs around, no Miss Pence. 2, 3 o'clock comes around in the morning, still no Miss Pence. Well, she doesn't show up until the next day, about 10:30 in the morning.
Really?
And her hair's a wreck. You know, she looked like she went through a hurricane or something.
Miss Pence, you got missing overnight?
I did, Your Honor.
Why was you gone all night? You know what I mean? What'd you do? Who was you with?
And what was her response?
She just was talking in circles, basically.
I confessed, Your Honor, at that time.
What did you tell him, Miss Pence?
I had told him that I had slept with the gentleman that had been staying with us. It was just the one time. It never happened again after that. And he still seems to believe that it happened more than the one time, Your Honor.
So you hadn't slept with him when he was actually living there?
No, Your Honor.
Wait, did you go looking for him or did you run into him?
I kind of went looking for him. Larry had continuously, from day one, accused me of cheating constantly.
Mr. Patrick?
Yes, Mr. Okay. Patrick. I had never slept with anyone else before that night. I had constantly...
You're so flirtatious.
That's how I was brought up. I'm constantly calling people honey and babe.
What did I say?
I'm from the South.
Different
That's how I was raised.
It
has nothing to do with that. I never slept with anyone before that. Never. You constantly accused me of it, and I kept telling you, you're going to keep pushing, and it's going to happen. That night it happened. That was the only time, and it's never happened since then.
The gentleman that just left your house in 5-6 days, he says he's going to move in, help pay bills, rent a room, then he leaves, just like that. Do you know why he left?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
I got a good idea.
Why do you think he left?
I believe that they were starting to catch feelings for one another or whatever.
That's not true,
and
Mr. Patrick.
A little bit too close for comfort. I think that's why.
Not true.
I think he was worried about me catching on to it.
Do you know where to find him if he is the father?
No, Your Honor, I don't. I've never spoke with the guy after that night.
Never kept in touch with him after that night?
No, Your Honor. I couldn't tell you where he is right now.
So I have another question. Why that guy? You say you left the house and you said I went looking for him. And I told him if he kept pushing me and kept saying I was cheating that it's going to happen, and it did that night. Why that guy? It seemed like you went out looking for him.
There was no specific reason as to why that guy. It was just someone at the time that was around, and it happened.
So in other words,
But he wasn't around. He had left the house.
He had, Your Honor. I was with my neighbor, like I had stated earlier. Me and her had went out. I did kind of look for him, I guess you could say a little. Me and him got together that night. We ended up having the one-night stand, and nothing happened after that night, Your Honor. Nothing.
But I know.
And so
it was probably the biggest mistake that I've ever made in my life. I wish that I would have never made that mistake.
It should have never happened at all.
It should have never happened, but it did, and I can't go back and change that. It's done. It's over with. I want some closure today, so I don't have to continue to deal with the arguments and you constantly saying that I'm cheating and everything.
How soon after that night did you find out you were pregnant?
May I
You brought an exhibit?
Yes, a calendar,
please. Step over to it and explain this.
On November 2nd, Your Honor, is the date that me and Mr. Patrick had sex. And then on August 7th is the date that the twins were born.
That don't mean that. That's a 5-day window.
It does. The doctor had said that the twins were conceived right around the 2nd of November, Your Honor. The twins were born almost completely full term. And if you count those dates back, it only leads to Mr. Patrick. There's
Mr.
no way
Patrick,
possible.
do you agree with those dates? They seem to add up.
No, Your Honor, I don't. I mean, it's a 5-day window between there.
A 5-day
doesn't
window
matter,
between
Mr.
what?
Patrick.
From the date that she had slept with the other man.
Let's be clear, Ms. Pence, which day did you sleep with the other man?
October 29th was the date that I had set.
Oh, yeah, we need to have that circle on the calendar as well.
I slept with the other gentleman on October 29th, 4 days
So
later.
that is just a
5 days.
5-day window.
It is, Your Honor,
Yes,
but
Your
I know for a fact that November 2nd is the date that I conceived.
How can you definitively say it was
The
November
doctor said
2nd?
the doctor said that November 2nd was right around the date that I had conceived.
What was it? They gave you a date or a window?
It was a window of a couple of days in the first couple of days in November. So there's no way possible that it could be the other guys if it was the first couple of days in November. How is that possible?
Well, I mean, it's just because October 29th is just 3 days before, and it's usually
It
an
is, but-
estimated
Can't determine.
I know
date
for a
of
fact, Your Honor,
conception.
that Mr. Patrick fathers the twins. I know that for a fact.
So, Mr. Patrick, when you look at this exhibit and you see on October 29th that that's the date she had sex with the other gentleman,
That's a hard pill to swallow. You know.
Yes, it is, but it never happened more than the one time.
That you
That's
say.
the only time. I know for it never
all right,
happened.
So, Mr. Patrick, you believe this happened more than once,
Oh yeah.
and so
never happened more than once.
you've requested that this court administer a lie detector test to Ms. Pence because you believe this
Yeah.
happened more than once. Mr. Patrick, in your court papers, you specify that you also had additional doubts, and they're specifically around Larry. What are those doubts?
I think he's ADHD or something like that. You know what I mean? He doesn't listen. He's rambunctious.
He's a little boy.
I understand
Mr.
he's a
Patrick.
little boy, and I hope he grows out of it someday. But I believe he's ADHD or
There's
something.
nothing
Or
wrong
he's
with
autistic.
And so,
Doesn't run in my family.
How do
it
you
doesn't
know
run in
that?
her family.
How do you know that it doesn't
Well,
run
I've
in your
been with
family?
you for 10 years, huh?
It doesn't matter. You don't know everything, every single thing about your family history.
Yeah, but I'm not a doctor neither.
Exactly.
well, Mr.
what I mean?
Patrick, I'll tell you what. I'm not a doctor, and Mr. Patrick, you said you're not a doctor. And that's why this court has asked a doctor to come here. Jerome, will you please escort Dr. Sarah Benson into the courtroom? She is a board-certified child and adolescent psychiatrist. Hello, doctor. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to.
We are, of course, hearing testimony today concerning beautiful twins, Carrie and Larry. Mr. Patrick, our plaintiff, has indicated that he feels concerned that he believes one of the children maybe has ADHD. We don't know. But he says none of these things run in my family. So the question then becomes, are learning disabilities hereditary?
They can be, but it's a much more complicated picture than that, and that's not the entire story. So sometimes we can point to one gene, sometimes it's multiple genes, and sometimes it's the way that the genes interact with the environment, and sometimes the genes have nothing to do with it, and it's just something that happened during the pregnancy or during the delivery or in that child's early childhood that can affect how they learn.
That's interesting because you're saying the gene could be a factor, but there's also the gene plus the environment component.
Right. And sometimes it's just the environment, like with lead poisoning, for example, where the genes had nothing to do with it and it's things that the child was exposed to later.
What are the chances that one twin may have a learning disability, but the other does not?
Twins, if they're fraternal twins, which is the case here,
Yes, they are.
are no more closely related than any other sibling pair when it's fraternal twins. And so you definitely could have one in one child and none in the other child, even though they have the same two parents.
Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. It's been very enlightening. I'll have Jerome escort you out. We don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thank you, doctor, for coming. So, Mr. Patrick, there is a chance that it can be passed down through the family, but the doctor said that there is a chance that it has nothing to do with that at all. So does that change your opinion now that you've heard the testimony of the doctor?
It's a possibility, you know what I mean? It could be passed down.
So what you're saying, what you heard further supports your testimony. This doubt about the children, this is what's causing all of the friction in your relationship. There's no trust.
We've always had arguments over stuff.
Yes, but Your Honor,
Just
we
after
haven't.
all this
we
happened.
haven't even been had sex in probably the past 4 months. It's just a constant argument from the time that I get up until the time that I go to bed. Pretty much, it's constant argument
Concerning paternity
over
issues?
paternity and the one night stand, and him saying that it happened more than the one time, Your Honor.
And so that's why, Mr. Patrick, you asked this court for a lie detector test, because you don't believe Ms. Pence is being truthful with you as to the true nature of the relationship with this other gentleman.
No.
Why do you believe, if she came clean that night, why do you believe she wouldn't tell you the whole truth since she was so forthright?
I'm not sure.
I have no reason to hide anything
I just
at all,
feel
Mr.
like she's
Patrick.
hiding more than what
There's
she's
nothing
saying.
to hide.
And just like
That's
I've told her,
nothing.
if it comes to the fact that the kids aren't mine, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to leave.
That's what I'm afraid of, Your Honor.
I mean, if it does come back, which I hope it does come back, that they are my children, it's still going to be hard for me to gain trust for her again. Trust is
So
something
the stakes
that's
are
hard to
high.
go back.
This is very serious, and your relationship is truly riding on this result.
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, like I said, I've been through her with everything. She's had cancer. She's in remission of 2 years. I went through all
Amen.
that with her. I went through every bit of it.
I just want this to be done and over with, Your Honor. I want him to get the closure that he needs.
And I promise you, if it does
And for
come
me,
back,
so that this can be over
I'll
with. I'm
apologize to you.
tired of all of the argument and everything. I just want to get on with our life and continue to grow and raise our family together.
Understood.
Like I said, if it does come back, which I hope they do, I will apologize to you. But if not, it's something I'm going to have to ponder on for a while, whether I'm going to continue to stay.
All right. You know, at this point, I can understand where this relationship is at a crossroads,
It is.
because you just don't trust one another. We're going to get to the paternity results shortly. But first, I'd like to give you the results of the lie detector test you requested.
Well, here
Jerome?
goes nothing. This here's going to determine our fate.
I have nothing to lie about, Mr. Patrick.
Ms. Pence, you met with a licensed polygraph examiner.
Yes, Your Honor.
You were asked the following questions. During the last 10 years of your relationship with Mr. Patrick, have you had sexual contact with any other man other than the man whom you admitted to cheating with?
Yes, Your Honor.
You said no. The lie detector determined you were being deceptive.
How is that?
Ms. Pence, you were asked, did you have sexual intercourse with the man whom you cheated on Mr. Patrick with more than once? You said no. The lie detector determined you were being deceptive.
That's not, Your Honor, that's not possible. I slept with the guy one
I
time.
knew it. You
One
were
time,
sneaking
Your Honor.
behind my back doing it.
No, Mr. Patrick, I did it. It was one time. It never happened other than that time.
It's what that paper says.
I don't care what
So-
that paper says.
One night or one time? Let's be specific.
It was one night, one time together. Period, flat out. The one time only.
Have you ever had a relationship, sexual relationship with anyone else besides this person?
No, Your Honor. Other than Mr. Patrick, no.
Well, these lie detector results certainly were not in your favor. Mr. Patrick, after hearing those results, what are you thinking?
Ain't nothing but lied to me the last 10 years.
I have not lied to you, Mr. Patrick.
It shows right there that
I
he
don't
was
care
being
what it said.
deceptive.
It happened the one time. That was it. I was nervous with everything that's been going on, and you know, maybe it could have came out because I was nervous like that. I've never done it more than the one time, Mr. Patrick.
I don't believe that. You get in my shoes, and I did that to you. How would you feel?
I would probably be in the same situation, but I know that for a fact that I only did it the one time, Mr. Patrick.
All right. I think I'm ready for the results. Jerome? These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Patrick versus Pence, when it comes to fraternal twins, 4-year-old Carrie Patrick and Larry Patrick, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Patrick, you are the father.
I told you that you was the father. I told you.
Are you relieved, Mr. Patrick?
Oh, very much so. The deception stuff with the lie detector test, that's something that's going to have to be worked on, because that just right there shows me I may not be able to trust her again. The important part of it is one is them kids belong to me.
I told you that.
That's the important part. Now that's going to make it a little easier on me to move on with my life.
And so even though it has been determined today that Carrie and Larry are your biological children, you still are unsure as to whether or not you're going to be able to continue in the relationship because of the results of the lie detector test?
Yeah, because of the trust issue now. I mean, it's bad enough I didn't trust her, but after hearing so much deception of her,
I mean, let's be honest. You all have overcome so much. Why not this if you really make the choice, right? So, you know, and Ms. Pence, if there is something that you just have not said yet, I think at this point, Mr. Patrick is just looking for the truth. And he stayed with you even after he found out that this other gentleman could potentially be the father.
Your
Is
Honor,
there anything that you haven't told him at this
yeah,
point?
anything.
No, Mr. Patrick knows everything that happened that night. I went into full detail, told him everything that happened. There's nothing else to say.
Okay. We have counseling and resources for you all to hopefully mend this relationship for yourselves and for the children. I wish you all the very best of luck. Court is adjourned.
Thanks, Your Honor.
It's your boy Kingsley King, baby. Y'all stop playing with me. Tell me how it is, man. Stop sugarcoating things for me. We don't need that. You're not helping me, baby. Tell me the truth.